Welcome to the Physical Product Movement, a podcast by Fiddle. We share stories of the world's most ambitious and exciting physical product brands to help you capitalize on the monumental change in how, why, and where consumers buy. I'm your host, Ken Ojuka. In this episode, I talk with Marc Siden, co-founder and CEO of Cloudwater. Cloudwater is a leading, functional, all-natural CBD beverage brand. Marc talks about the challenges of leading his company through the last year of COVID and how they've been able to thrive and become stronger through these unprecedented challenges. Marc spent some time explaining the difficulties and opportunities in the beverage space and how to compete against established giants like Coca-Cola. Lastly, he talks about the importance of understanding your landed costs, distributor margins, retailer margins, and shipping and promotional costs, and why this is absolutely vital to your success as a physical products company. This is a jam-packed interview that you won't want to miss. Enjoy. All right. Hey, Marc, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Hey, Ken, thank you for having me. It's, delightful to be here and always appreciate an opportunity, to chat.
Yeah, cool. Where are you calling us from?
I am in New York City, New York. Sunny 80 degrees, and life is returning, to as normal as as possible. And New York City has this pulse and energy that New Yorkers kind of get hold of and sorely miss when it wasn't there, but it's certainly back. And just speaking to fellow New Yorkers, there's this kind of euphoric sense of, relief and feeling that, hey, the energy of the city is back. There's some things to work on here, as always, but it's really great to see life returning to normal. I wish that for, everybody, no matter who's listening and where they are. It's so important for all of us.
Yeah, and I absolutely I love New York, especially in the springtime. Spent some time out there. I think it's beautiful. There's always this energy, especially in the spring. It just seems like you're coming out of winter, and it's just very optimistic and fun. And I think especially now coming out of COVID, you're probably feeling that.
Well, I was going to say COVID was a very, very, very long winter. So very apropos that we're kind of coming out in spring, which is usually the exact way you described it. Just took a few extra seasons, if you will, to get us, as one full cycle from spring to spring to get us back here. But it feels great.
Well, great. Your company is Cloudwater, Cloudwater Brands. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about it and what makes you guys unique in the market?
Sure. So Cloudwater Brands has, two lines of functional beverages. One is our hemp or CBD line that comes in 4 artisanal flavors: grapefruit, mint, and basil, blood orange, coconut, blackberry, lemon, and rosemary, and our Aztec chocolate and strawberry. And that was, our launch off point for the brand in about mid 2019. And I don't come from a beverage background, and I don't want to say I was forced into this, but it kind of fell into my lap. So as I talk about the brand and the people and those around us, it really has little to do with me and more to do with these incredible people that I get to, go to war with every day. But when we sat around and decided that we wanted to launch a CBD beverage, the first couple things we looked at was, we're going to be launching into a very crowded space. And, we were one of the first movers, but, one of the things that we can do, to make us unique, as you ask, rise above the noise, as we say, and not pound our chests and say, hey, we're better. And hey, look at us, is what can we do that will resonate and, really, capture and captivate the audience that we wanted to reach. And so there were a few attributes or characteristics that we really honed in on. And the first was, kind of our branding. We didn't spend a lot of money with branding agencies, although we did go through a process of nomenclature, and Cloudwater kind of happened by accident. It's a long story. I won't get into it, but we loved the name, and we wanted to create packaging that would, really stick out and kind of elicit some senses in people as they look at it, to say, hey, what's that? And, next was, really a simple ingredient panel that would make up our flavor profiles. We happen to have 6 ingredients. You can pronounce them all, and they're all either all natural or organic, and they're good for you. And then the most important thing is obviously taste. And, in functionality and wellness, there's been kind of a large sacrifice, at least in my humble opinion, for that functionality when it comes to taste. And we've always operated under this ethos that let's have our customers have their cake and eat it too. Let's make really good for you, efficacious drinks that look great and taste great. And so it took us some time, and we went a little slower. But we launched that line and those flavors, and to our surprise, although we were aspirational, we were nominated right out of the gate for Best New Beverage by BevNet, and made it to the finals, which really
Nice.
helped us kind of get on the map, right?
Yeah.
So that was very exciting, and we build our social communities and our networks, brick by brick, and because that's a feedback loop for us, because we want to hear what are we doing well, and most importantly, what are we not doing well? Where can we excel? And we've done a lot of tweaks, to either the packaging or some flavor formulas or whatever, based on really listening to our consumers. And I cannot underscore how important that is for a small brand that has, large aspirations. Is if you're not listening, you're not going to get there. Well, you might, but I think, in general terms, it's really good to listen.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's double click on a couple of those things. First of all, you said you don't have a beverage background. I want to hear a little bit more about your career, your background, and kind of where you're coming from. And then you mentioned also that you kind of fell into this and it kind of fell in your lap. We kind of want to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I'm a poker player in my leisure time, and any poker players out there know that there's some skill to it, but you certainly need a lot of luck. So I love saying I'd rather be lucky than good. And I was running a real estate information and technology business that I had started in my basement with a partner about 15 years back.
And that's what, Onboard Informatics? Is that the name of the company?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, we aggregated data on every neighborhood in the country, and we sold it to companies like Zillow and Coldwell Banker, and any data that you would see out there around a listing was, what my company provided and pioneered, on the internet. And the great thing about that experience, although it took many more years than we thought, doesn't it always, is that it was a self-funded business. So we really learned how to operate through extreme adversity, 2 recessions, the financial crisis, and so forth, and even a buyout offer that got taken away from us during that financial crisis. And so it really taught my partner and I, the things, and we made so many mistakes, by the way, but it really taught us, how to operate and, what it really takes to build chops in a business, regardless of what industry you're in. And we were lucky enough to exit that business in 2018. And it wasn't retirement money, but it certainly felt good to get through that adversity and finish. You get, I guess, this little proverbial badge that, hey, we exited a company. But, I made a conscious decision that I was going to take a break, right? I mean, I grinded for 15 years. Let me chill out for a little while. And just as I was kind of soaking into that lounge chair and, relaxing, I get a knock on the door, and it's opportunity, right? And entrepreneurs, who are out there, you don't ever say, come back later, right? You jump out of your chair and say, what do you got? And it was my, good friend and my now co-founder, Barry Kelman. And Barry, said I was out on the West Coast and I tried some CBD waters and they absolutely tasted like crap. His sister happens to run a really reputable flavor house here on the East Coast. So Barry brought back some samples of CBD, and Ellie whipped up some flavor profiles, and Barry started to walk around and have people try it, and he got a really great response from it. So he then came to me and said, look, I think there's something here. I really don't know how to start and operate a business. Can you help me? And I said, sure. And at that time, I was just helping him out as a friend. So I made some introductions and said, hey, go meet this person, that person, this person. And I got subsequently invited to kind of a third meeting between the group. And he asked me to come. And I said, sure, I'll come. And I just listened as they talked. And, I was not that I wasn't paying attention, but some of it didn't make sense to me because I knew nothing about beverage. And I turned to Barry at one point. The only thing I offered at the meeting was, Barry, just make sure you find a good CEO. And everybody in the room started looking at me. And I said, what are you guys looking at me for? And, one of the guys who's now, a founding advisor of the brand said, Siden, you're the guy. I'm like, how am I the guy? I don't know anything about beverage. He's like, trust me, you're the guy. So they leave. Barry corners me and he's like, you're my guy. I want you to be my co-founder and, CEO. And I didn't say yes right there, but in the interest of time and your audience's boredom, one thing led to another. And I finally accepted to come on and, co-found the business and be its CEO. And, here we are a few years later, and what a journey it's been. So let me pause.
Sure.
I'd be remiss if I didn't, talk about, I'm no hero here. I didn't think this up. And certainly I wouldn't be here without the incredible people, that are involved in Cloud. But, that's kind of how it started. And, it's always those happy accidents, right?
Yeah. Especially like your point about, when opportunity knocks, you get up and answer that door, no matter what you're doing.
If it's in your blood, it's, if you're a Marine and you come home and you hear your brothers are, back at, in the war zone, you jump up and go. I mean, it's in your blood. It's innate. I can't help it. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs feel the same way.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned functional beverage. Let's just double click on that term a little bit. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah. So, and that's a really great question because, we throw terms around like wellness and functional and what have you. Functional to me is, first and foremost, I mean, it's science-based. So it's not a claim we put on the label that makes your brain think, hey, I'm going to take this and, great things are going to happen. It's a science-based, ingredient or ingredients that have an efficacious impact on, your mind, your body, or, I'll even say your soul. And when it, comes to CBD, it's something I took a course on and really studied it, to come into this role. I was absolutely blown away by the medicinal properties, the fact that our body naturally metabolizes, CBD because of how our central nervous system is set up. And first and foremost, how it was, found to just provide balance or homeostasis within your central nervous system. That alone to me is really functional, especially as a New Yorker where we're always walking around, we're always in a rush. Our RPMs are revving really high. And here's something that in the right dosage, taken, in the right way, can actually bring you to idle. A lot of people talk about CBD as like it, chill out and chill. Yes, there's a chill effect, but the chill effect is really just bringing your busy brain or your anxiety or whatever to a lower level where you can be more lucid and function. And to me, that's functional, right? And so I became very enamored with that. And you'll see as I talk about some of our other products and the things we're going to do in the future, it really has to be something that's science-backed, and it has to be efficacious. Like it's not 2% of a recommended daily allowance so we can put a vitamin, or an ingredient on our label. It has to do, for us, our bar is it has to contain something that's going to have an impact on your wellness. Right. And so that's kind of how we define it. You may see it differently. That's my, kind of humble perspective, if you will.
No, that's good explanation. And then you've also launched, a couple other, product lines. And immunity looks like it's one, and then merch. Do you mind explaining some of those?
Yeah. So merch is the low hanging, fruit. Part of the great team I work with, one of them happens to be my wife, and She is a incredibly talented fashion designer who, just heard me yapping away every day on the phone about Cloudwater and started to get involved. And like so many other people, she was organically drawn to the brand. And she started to take, she designed our social. She actually was instrumental in designing our packaging and so forth. And she just started making some cool wearables. And, we threw them up on, social and the website, and people went absolutely crazy for them. I wouldn't call it a major product line, and, we're not really relying on that as revenue, but, as many trying to build, more of just a product line and more of a lifestyle brand or a brand that people, have fun interacting with. Some of our wearables are pretty cool, driven by our logo and things like that. So that's the low hanging fruit. We launched Cloudwater Plus Immunity in the height of COVID. And again, these are some of these things that you don't plan for, where, we had just started to distribute our hemp line, and any business savvy or not even savvy person would say, how in God's name would you launch a second product when your first product is still trying to get out there? And that's a damn good question. The headwinds we were facing, as many were, obviously with COVID and retail slowing down. But one of the biggest considerations we had to take into account was that in the CBD space, we are all waiting for a federally regulated framework from the FDA.
Right.
And as we know, they have been threatening to create a framework, making it officially legal to put CBD into food and beverage and distribute it. They have not done much of that at all. And with the advent of COVID, and rightfully so, they were going to be busy doing, what they were doing, leading the charge on therapeutics and obviously vaccines. So as a startup that's burning money and, now inching along, we had to do something. We launched a digital strategy, for the brand, which helped carry us for a while, but it wasn't going to be enough. So another incredible woman that I work with is Dr. Carol Dollard. She's our COO. Carol was instrumental in building Vitamin Water. She was Vitamin Water's COO, and she's a PhD in biochemistry. And I called Carol. I said, look, we have to do something. Do you think people would drink Cloudwater, without the CBD? And we went back to a lot of their feedback, and this is why a community is so important. What are your customers saying about your brand? And, a lot of them would just call out, the great taste. So let's create a product with great taste, and let's take the CBD out and let's put something else in, right? And it took, all of 30 seconds to come up with something that would be immune support. And, as I said before, we wanted to use ingredients that would resonate, that people could pronounce and understand, and that would be top of mind. And we came up with vitamin D3 and zinc. And so we launched within a matter of 60 days. We took the same flavor profiles in our hemp line, created some new packaging, a slim can versus the bottle. We augmented the branding a little, and we went to press and we launched that. And it's actually done wonders for the brand. It certainly complicates, the landscape, and it creates a little bit, more chaos, if you will. But it did open a national artery of distribution for us, because one of the issues with CBD is that the big distributors nationwide were not taking CBD products, nor were, and still are, some of the larger chains, natural chains specifically, like a Sprouts or a Whole Foods. So, we now have an opportunity and work with some very large national distributors and are getting into chains and independent markets all across the country because of this. Some people call it a pivot. It's really an evolution or a line extension, which we had planned for. We just did it prematurely. And, it's resonating very well, with our core audience, who's also concerned with their immunity and immune support.
Yeah, understood. I mean, just so we kind of have an idea, what percentage of your business, would you say, between the two main lines there?
Yeah. So, and that's a moving target. We launched the immunity, probably in December of last year. So right now it's about 50-50. We do expect this year, that immunity will, take the lead because, we're getting into some chains and chains are 20, 30, 50, a couple hundred stores at a clip. And, the order sizes start to go up and that velocity starts to go up. But, the underlying strategy there is let's get a Cloudwater product on a shelf and let's get the brand out there. And, CBD is our star. We're not giving up on it. We are huge believers in the category. And so we do anticipate a slingshot effect, if you will, by getting placement in some of these chains with our immunity product. Once the FDA does come around, and we certainly anticipate they will, we'll go back to the chains and say, hey, we have this other SKU, this other line, and we can foresee, some pretty rapid growth, in the hemp and the CBD line as well, which is growing every day as well. Everything is growing right now, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your, insightful question, it's 50-50 and, that's exactly where we want to be. That just means we're doing more business out there. We're reaching more customers and let them beat the crap out of each other, quite frankly, because, my daily grind is let's just get this a Cloudwater product into somebody's hands. And I say this humbly, but overwhelmingly in the 98th percentile, people come back and are quite, I was going to say obsessed, but they're quite intrigued and they're very attracted to the products that we produce. And that's great news for us. So it's just a question of continuing to grind and drive trial and get our products out there.
Yeah, I think obsessed is a great word to use, actually, and you want people obsessed with your product.
I do.
It means,
but I want them to say
a great thing.
Yeah. Right.
I think this brings up a pretty good talking point. What advice would you give for anybody that's entering, let's just say kind of or entering a market where they might have an ingredient that's more controversial or, is more regulated, kind of like CBD. What would you, what kind of advice could you give to somebody and what would you maybe need to do different than launching a different product?
Yeah. So a couple things. I love your questions, by the way. If you don't know the answer to, one of your prevailing questions or goals, then you have to account for, just some curveballs, right? And, I don't want to use the word arrogance, but if you sit there and build a business on CBD as we did and say, yeah, the FDA is going to approve it, their FDA is going to approve it. And then, 3 months into launch, not only didn't the FDA approve it, New York City banned it, right? And we're like, whoa, what are we doing? So, good entrepreneurs are on their toes and, they're going to hopefully anticipate that if the landscape has not been framed out, that they are going to run into delays and everything is going to take exponentially longer. So first and foremost, plan out financially, right? Make sure that, whatever runway you gave yourself, add a multiple to that because you're going to need it. Number two is controversy means education. And, I was in a hotel one evening, I'll never forget this. And I held out a bottle proudly and I said, hey, do you want to try my CBD drink? And the person had a visceral reaction, almost like I pulled out a knife. They're like, what is that? Is that going to get me high? Or, no, I don't smoke pot or whatever. And, it punched me in the gut, and I'm glad it happened there, is that, wow, you know what? I may know about this. I might be in love with this. I'm staring at the cereal box, but there's a lot of people out there that don't really understand this compound yet. And so, we immediately embarked on an educational process. Stop the selling and start educating, because the best sales, folks are the sales engineers, right? They're the ones educating the customer on the value that they're getting or what they're actually getting, instead of a salesman who's, trying to shove something down their throat. So just make sure that, you know that it's synonymous, that if there's controversy, there's going to be a level of education. And underestimating those things will greatly impact your forecast, your time to market, your go-to-market strategies, and things like that. I think it's wonderful to be disruptive, but you have to do it with your eyes wide open. And, wishing and hoping are not going to pay the bills. And certainly, not going to invite, other rounds of investors in if you haven't, been anticipatory about these issues. I hope that helps.
No, I think it definitely helps. Just kind of a follow-up question on that. So if you're launching into one of these, more controversial markets, I've often heard of people talk about some of the advantages of it. Would you would you agree that there's some advantages to entering a market like that? That's in the news. That's top of mind for a lot of people. That can help actually propel your brand forward.
Yeah, and I said, and I mean it. I think disruption is beautiful, and I hope we're saying the same thing. I think launching into that controversial kind of dynamic is a bit of disruption, right? Because if it wasn't, it would be ubiquitous, or everybody would accept it, or it wouldn't be on the news, right? But that doesn't translate to. It might be top of mind, and a lot of people were seeing things about CBD, but they didn't know what the heck it was. And when people say, "Is that going to show up on a drug test?" I'm like, "It's CBD," and they're like, "Well, what's the difference?" So they might have listened and heard it, but they didn't really understand it to a level where they would take money out of their pocket, or let alone put it in their body, even if it was free, right? So all I'm saying is, yes, launch into those headwinds, but launch into them with anticipation of the boxes you're going to need to check to get over those hurdles, right? And thankfully for us, we found that out very early, and of course we thought about it, but again, you don't know what the battle is going to be like until you fire that first bullet. And me holding out that sample was like that first bullet of the battle. And every battle, in any war book you might ever read, any battle plan changes the minute that first bullet is shot, right?
Right.
And so we huddled back up and said, "Okay, team, we have to do layers of education here. People don't know what the bleep this stuff is. And I don't care if it's in every headline. They're not going into the science. They don't understand what it's made of. If it's going to get them high, does it show up on a drug test or whatever?" And today, that's 1% of the questions we got. When we launched, it was 110% of the questions that we got. So I love that. I mean, that challenge, that disruption, that's what gets us up in the morning, and we'll all take on a great challenge. My advice, as you asked, is simply just to have those eyes wider open, if not already, that what you're getting yourself into, and those unanswered questions are either going to be your best friend if you hit them head on, or they're going to come back and kill your brand. And that's why we see some brands, unfortunately go out, because they did not anticipate some of those headwinds, or they couldn't withstand them. And that's unfortunate, because they might have had a great idea and a great product.
Understood. Let's talk just a little bit, more broader challenges with launching a beverage brand versus, let's say just another food brand. What are some of the maybe logistical or, I guess just unique challenges of being a beverage?
Sometimes ignorance is bliss. And, when we launched our product, I'm like, wow, this looks great. It tastes great. Let's just get it out there. And, talking about going into something with your eyes wide open, anybody that's been in CPG retail knows exactly, what I'm talking about. And if you're not, it is one of the most difficult areas to undertake. There are so many moving parts for just getting a bottle from your warehouse to the shelf, right? And then getting it sold and making money on that. Everybody has a handout. There are charges for everything. And not to mention that, I mean, it's almost short of a miracle to get your product on a shelf, because it is so incredibly crowded out there and very busy. The days of the billion-dollar brand are behind us. And now you have a lot of brands like Cloudwater, micro brands, newer brands. While we may be serving as innovators to some of the bigger companies, we're not going anywhere unless, we produce a good product, we make our margins, we get on shelf, and most importantly, you have to sell it, right? It's not, hey, we got into Stop and Shop, nobody buys it, it's not a win. It's the second and third and the fourth, repeat, purchase. So how do you get on a shelf in a market that has 5,000 other products and let people know you're there? So then you have to to in-store programming and in-store promotions and digital. I mean, it's incredibly complicated to get a brand out there, get it on shelf, make your margins, and sell it. And it's obviously doable, but it's one of the greatest undertakings I've taken on in my professional life. if I can distill it down, it's pretty incredible. And I'm not trying to dissuade anybody out there, but again, I'm just speaking from experience and somebody who came into this, not knowing much of anything. And man, I've learned so much over the past 2 years. And it's one of the more, difficult things to undertake for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned margins, and I think that's something that a lot of people underestimate, how much of they need to give up along the way before that gets into a customer's hands. Maybe you could break down, just some rough numbers or like hypothetical numbers. If you make a product, what you can expect to sell it to the retailer for, and then just kind of looking at profit. What percentages, what kind of markups do you need to take into consideration, when you're doing this?
Sure. So first and foremost, you have to have your landed cost down to the penny, right? So from whatever vessel to your entire supply side to, raw goods, your ingredients, everything down to the penny. And it is a business of pennies, right? Because that's landed. That means it is now, has shrink wrap on it in your warehouse and it's ready to go. Typically in retail, it's going to go from that warehouse to a distributor. Distributors work on anywhere from a 20 to a 40%, gross margin. So you have to account for that. In doing that, you set kind of an MSRP or an SRP for your product where, hey, this product should sell at $2.99, right? And knowing that and working backwards, you take your landed costs, you take your distributor markup, and retailers make anywhere from 25 to 40% as well. So, you have to calculate all of those markups along the way, to get to your SRP. One of the things that was a great misstep on our part when we launched is, we wanted to be a premium product. We priced it way too high. And the good news is that, we had margin room. There wasn't a margin issue. It was just more of our ignorance or arrogance or whatever you want to call it. But the real test for us came when we came back down to earth and said, okay, this is not a $6.99 product. It's a $3.99 to $4.99 product, right? And, thankfully, because of the team we have, we're able to optimize our COGS, our cost of goods, and, still be able to hit that SRP knowing that, the distributor and the retailer were making their margin. It could have been a fatal mistake, right? Because at $6.99, it wasn't selling at the velocity that we wanted to. Plus, we wanted to launch as an on-premise brand and be, kind of high profile and hospitality and so forth. And those price points were perfect for that. But, after COVID, we were forced into a more retail strategy and we had to lower our pricing, and it could have killed our brand. And again, thankfully, we were a step ahead of that and really thought through it. So, obviously, knowing your exact COGS to the penny to what your shelf price is going to be, it's an exact science. There's no estimation. And that gets you to kind of your gross margin. But after that, you're not getting on shelf in retailers or driving trial without giving promos, without, giving what we call give gets, like giving a retailer a reason to try your product. So you might sell them 3 cases and give them 1 free. That eats into margin. You might, give off invoice promos that, hey, 2 for 5 or 2 for this. That every charge that goes to the customer gets billed back to the supplier, to us, right? Nobody else is picking up the bill. So you also have to build in promos and things about giving that product away. And this is what kills a lot of brands also. They give way too much product away. They're burning cash, and ultimately their margins are just too low to sustain it. So make sure that if you are going into the space, that the financial side of your business is is headed by somebody that has extensive experience in, this side of the business. I don't care how great your product is. If you can't make your margins, or you can't do your promos, you can't support retail, you will not make it. Plain and simple.
All right, I think that's it. That's a good explanation of kind of painting that landscape for us. And I really do appreciate the items that you brought up about what kills some fledgling brands that are trying to go out there is not considering, for instance, landed costs. That you're not calculating everything into that,
Right.
not thinking about promos. Not thinking about the margins that you're giving up to the retailers and to the distributors.
Right. And they're shipping to your distributor. Somebody's paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be you. And that could be 50 cents a case. But if you don't put that on your landed, your COGS or somewhere on your P&L, that's eating into margin. Every single penny is eating into your margin. Right. And, as a new brand, you want to maintain margins, in my opinion, north of 30%. When you go to raise institutional money, they want to see margins at 40 or 50%, or at least a pathway to that. When you get purchased by Coca-Cola, they want to know that, they could take your entire infrastructure and make you that even larger, right? So it's about creating pathways. And you don't want to come out as a new brand and have 70% margins. That means that you're not promoting enough or giving too much away. You want to drive trial. So it's actually interesting at different stages of your business, what are healthy margins, to have, and use that margin to your advantage. If there's excess margin, then give better deals and drive more trials. The only way you're going to get the velocity and the turns is by getting, more product out there, and use that margin to your advantage. So it's definitely a science. And again, as I talk about my team, thank God I have the team that I do, because I would not have known about any of this. No matter what I've done in the past and what I can say about my resume, these are things that I've learned on the job, and I've had amazing people around me, which I can lecture all day long. Entrepreneurs are sometimes not CEOs. We have to earn our stripes in terms of operations. Just because we have a great idea doesn't make us true CEOs. I didn't become a real CEO until I started Cloudwater, and I was a CEO of Onboard for 15 years. And that's a, pretty stark type of statement. But, now I look back, and now I understand so much more about what I learned in the past, but what it actually takes, to lead a company, and, know your strengths and get the hell out of the way if you don't have them, and put somebody in there that does. And that makes you a great leader, not somebody who's weak. And that's pretty academic, but unfortunately some people run with ego, and they run right into a wall.
Let's change gears just a little bit. You guys just recently got into Stop and Shop, and I understand that's still rolling out. Is that true?
Yeah, we just landed, and we're on shelf on 110 Stop and Shops on the East Coast, which was a really nice, sweet victory for us in the middle of COVID, and is really starting to prove out that model that was our immunity line, to get into a bigger chain, to get 110 stores, at a clip. But yeah, up and down the East Coast, we are in those stores as we speak.
So how did that come about? Maybe you could tell us how you got on their radar and how you got the deal.
Yeah. So like any other industry, there's a lot of relationship based, stuff going on. And we have just a lot of, beverage kind of veterans and experts on our team. And really the key is a buyer's not going to buy you as a favor to a friend, but a buyer might pay more attention to you if they know you're coming in, or somebody makes a phone call and says, hey, make sure you give the brand a look. There's something pretty special here. And that was the case with Stop and Shop, and they were incredibly gracious to give us a shot because we're a young brand. But they spent a little extra time looking at our brand, listening to what we have to offer beyond just a sales deck and a sample. And they really appreciated our passion and our approach, and most importantly, that we would fully support the partnership and really help to build it. And those ingredients, kind of led to their decision. We've been turned down just as fast by other chains, because we didn't have those types of things installed in the sales process, right? So again, I don't, we think we have a great product and our customers are, again, obsessed with it, but that doesn't mean a buyer is going to see it that way. And, again, there's some luck of the draw there, is to get in front of these buyers and really try to make a strong argument, why you versus another brand. And it's not just because we taste great, because there's a lot of, power and passion behind this brand that's going to drive the success of the partnership.
And you mentioned a little bit about COVID in some of your remarks. What's been the effect of COVID on your business?
So, taking some pages out of my previous experience when we were running a real estate business, through the financial crisis of 2008, I huddled up with the team. The first thing I said is, look, we're not going to fire anybody. So everybody's job is safe. And maybe I was lying. I don't know, but I did commit to everybody because, look, we're all scared enough. And I'm like, we're going to make this through one way or another. But most importantly, this is going to force us to be, more scrappy, more creative. It's going to challenge us personally. It's going to challenge us as a business. And I said, I'll make you one promise and I will base my reputation on it. If we make it through this together, we will be a bigger, better, and stronger brand. And, I'm not, standing on a soapbox here, but I have to say that, all of us, including myself, just really dug in and we made a conscious decision to make it through. And I think like anything else in life, if you, kind of make that predetermination in your heart, it's going to give you the best chance, for that success. And, we were able to, launch our digital strategy or grow it by 300%. We came out with our immunity line and, we were right in the middle of a fundraise that got cut off. So we had 50% of the capital that we thought we would have to make it through. And, everybody just kind of hunkered down. And, if I'm proud of anything, I'm so proud of this brand and to be a part of it, but I am incredibly proud of the men and women that I work with and their commitment to this. And they kind of went along with it. They bought into the notion that we're going to be bigger and better. And here we are. And I think we're much better. We're getting bigger, but most importantly, we're stronger for it. So, I lost some people to COVID, and God bless everybody who went through a hard time. So I'm not going to say, hey, COVID was great, but the silver lining was that, if it doesn't, kill you, it makes you stronger. And, here we are.
Yeah. That's inspiring. And humbling in a lot of ways. This has been really hard. I'm happy to be on this side of it and to be coming out of it.
Yeah. And we're all blessed. And, hopefully it builds, some, just some more awareness and appreciation, because a lot of us hunkered down and, American Express called me and said, are you okay? Because I wasn't out there spending money and I was just doing the simple things in life, with my kids and my wife and my dog and, just finding ways to live a simple life and work really, really, really hard. And to me, notwithstanding the pain that so many of us as, Americans or family members or people have gone through, it created some, really exciting stuff for the future.
And so why don't we just talk about what's next for your company? You're going to continue to expand in retail. What else are you excited about? Do you have any new product lines or flavors or anything coming out?
So, we're going to continue to, build on our retail expansion strategy, build on our digital strategy. We're going to relaunch in hospitality because we feel our brand fits really, really well in, high-end restaurants, hotels, clubs, and things of that nature. We want to get really exceptional at the things that we're doing now before we think about, broadening our line. We do have a flavor house that we're always in looking at new flavor profiles. We'll have some new flavors coming out for our line here in the near future. We just got USDA organic status for our immunity line, so we're launching that next month in some beautiful new painted cans. So, we're always moving forward. But the thing, we're really excited about as a group is, I come from, a background working in philanthropy as a New York City kid who grew up, with great diversity. I was exposed to racism at very early age, and it inspired me to work in the inner city communities with underserved, kids through hockey programs and after school programs. And when we launched Cloudwater, I knew that we wanted to have a social mission, but like everything else we do here, we kind of slow roll it because it has to be authentic. And we don't want to just say, hey, we're just donating this or that. And by the way, which is not a bad thing, just for us, we want to make an impact. And so we're in the process of launching our social mission, which is really to work with underserved communities, specifically those of food desert areas, meaning that, there's just not the emphasis on health and wellness and the education of that in underserved communities. And we not only want to donate product, that's good for you, we want to foster education because we believe that every kid deserves, to be exposed to health and wellness and nutrition, regardless of their socioeconomic background. And it just feels real and organic. We have a very diverse workforce here, and it's very top of mind. I didn't want it to be just driven by me. And so besides expanding and making money, we always want to give back, and, we've done our part, in any small way we can, like so many brands have done, which, I salute. But, we want this mission to carry forward. So we're expanding and making more money and bragging about our wins. We're also making an impact to level the playing field out there. And, I say that with a tremendous amount of pride. So those are some of the highlights. And we do promise some really exciting line extensions and new products in the near future. But for the time being, we have our hands full. We have a lot of work to do, and, we'll just keep at it.
That's awesome. As we wrap up here, just wanted to switch over to the quick fire round. Just have 4 questions for you. Just tell me the first answer that comes to mind.
Sure, I'll try.
What's a tool or resource that has helped you the most in your career?
Listening to, folks that have gone through, similar challenges or even the same challenges. A lot of people turn to books. I message people on LinkedIn who maybe I know or I want to meet and say, hey, could I have coffee with you? I really want to hear like kind of a live, rendition of how you handle this or how you made it through. And, that means dropping your ego, your pride, and just, reaching out, to a resource that, could invariably just, really turn things around or help you through something.
What is one book that you'd recommend to people?
I read a book called Execution, which is maybe the last book I've had time to read. But what I loved about it was, how they focused on the planning phase of execution. I love to steal some lines from the book, but to say that, you can execute flawlessly against a flawed plan and you'll get a flawed outcome, right? So people use execution, very loosely, execute. But, the planning and the nimbleness of that planning is really the underpinnings of whether you're going to execute to success or not. And that really, really resonated with me. I have a few other books. David Kidder, Big to Great, I think that the title is. I know David personally, and I've been following him, and I just bought his book, and it's on my desk. I'm going to try to find some time to read it, but my time has been unfortunately pretty short lately.
That's great. What is one piece of advice that you'd give your 21-year-old self?
Don't be so damn cocky and think you know it all. the tuition to my success have been my failures, and to embrace failures as some of the greatest gifts that you'll ever receive. Because if you do, you're going to be, you're going to turn out great as a person. I used to beat the shit out of myself for failing because I let somebody else down, or whether it's my parents or what have you. And I left out the part of embracing, what led to that failure. More importantly, I left out the part of what were the lessons that I could have learned. There's no greater feeling and empowerment than dusting yourself off, having been, flung through the mud, and then, taking a step forward. I can't even explain how powerful that is. And a lot of us, seek out pleasure and deflect pain. And that's the type of pain that you need to embrace if you want to be great. And when I say great, I don't mean make money. I mean just great in a sense that you can, wake up every day confident that you can take on challenges, and no matter what direction they come from, you have confidence in yourself that you'll get back up and move forward.
All right. And last, who's one person in your field of work that you'd love to take to work? Take to lunch. Maybe somebody that another entrepreneur that you look up to. Somebody that you've been watching their career. Who's somebody that you'd love to take to lunch?
That's such a great question. I'd love to take my father to lunch. He inspired me as an entrepreneur. He died when I was 15, and he was Columbia Law School. He made it to Columbia Law on scholarship, got drafted. When he came home, he said, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to start my own company. And he started a pet supply company, and I watched him suffer, through building that. And he never got to finish it because he passed away. And I'm sorry if this is esoteric, but I'd love to sit and have lunch with him today. I have, one tattoo on my body. It says, in your honor. And part of that is from my father, who, went against the grain, started his own business, never got to finish. And I'd love to sit with him today because he was a brilliant man, and just kind of, what do you think? There's dozens of people out there I can, say I want to have lunch with, but, he asked me for quick fire, and that's what's in my heart. I'd really love to sit with him one more time and have that discussion, just because I'm here so in part because of the things that he, kind of primed for me when I was, much younger.
Yeah, Marc, I think that's a great answer. And just to wrap up here, do you have any parting advice for anybody out there that's in the grind right now with a physical product, trying to get a business off the ground, or trying to get into retail? What advice could you offer them?
So, a couple parts. First of all, if you're out there in the grind, then you've had many similar days to me where you either wake up, you don't sleep, or at some point in the day, you kind of collapse into a chair on the floor or whatever, and just ask yourself, what the hell did I get myself into? Or, dark clouds come over you, like failure's impending, or I can't do this, I'm not going to make it. And, you're obviously still here because you fought through. And just to know that it gets easier, the more that you kind of embrace that and fight through it, because the no's, which lead to a lot of these feelings, like you get turned down or you get rejected, they are no for now. They are not no forever, right? This is not application to a law school where they said you're rejected and, you can't go back. A retailer shuts you down. It's not, don't take it personally. It could be for a million reasons. Get that feedback and optimize or change the things to make the company more attractive or what have you, and then go back and submit again, right? And it really is just sticking to your guns and your belief system, because the continuity of that, will allow you to, really carry this out. It's a numbers game. You just have to keep going back and back and back, and just don't give up on your dream. There's just no reason to do it.
That's awesome. And that is a great place to end. I appreciate you, Marc, for jumping on with us. I think we've all learned a lot. And I wish you the best of luck with your product.
Thanks, Ken. I love your questions, and you made this easy for me. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. I'm humbled to have this opportunity. Good luck at whatever you're doing out there.
All right. Good luck. Appreciate it. The Physical Product Movement Podcast is brought to you by Fiddle. To find out more about Fiddle and how our industry-leading inventory ops platform is giving modern brands and manufacturers full visibility into their inventory and operations, visit fiddle.io. And then make sure to search for Physical Product Movement in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Fiddle, thanks for listening.